ABSA Off-Road Championship makes an annual pilgrimage to Botswana for the Toyota Kalahari Botswana 1000 Desert Race. The race ABSA Off-Road calendar and this year celebrated its 29th birthday. The event was first run in 1975 with Toyota taking over sponsorship in 1981 and until 1990 the race was run in the Vryburg area in Northwest Province.
The race moved to Botswana in 1991 and in recent years was based at the Game City complex in Gaborone. This year the event moved to Kumukwane, a village west of Gaborone, and with the assistance of Botswana resident Keith Toy, an impressive facility was carved out of the African bush.
Everybody's put a little bit in and I think the whole venue has come out very nicely. Department of Tourism has been very much involved in the race and the 4x4 Club of Southern Africa. So I think everybody and the local authorities have done their part. I think it's pretty much almost like on the Dakar type of bivouac style based, and I think it looks very nice.
The facility at Kumukwane housed race headquarters and the pits and would also serve as the designated service point during the race. As is always the case, the documentation area was a hive of activity as crews went through the registration formalities that are part and parcel of ABSA Championship events. The pits were also busy as teams set up shop with the format of this year's race differing from previous years. After the Donaldson Prologue on the Friday to determine grid positions, the racing sections on the Saturday and Sunday would be run over 2 laps of different routes with servicing and overnight halts at Kumukwane.
Winners of previous Toyota Desert Races provide a who's who of South African off-road racing, and current production car drivers champion Duncan Foss was looking to rewrite the record books by taking a 4th win in succession. A member of the Castor Toyota team, Foss's previous victories all came with the now defunct Nissan factory team, with Toyota looking for their first desert race success dating back to 1999.
I've really had a great run the last 3 races here. I've won them, so there's pressure to do it in 4 in a row, and you know, for Toyota to do well in their home race. So yeah, look, there's always pressure with racing, but the cars are good. We've tested the cars. We're happy with them. I think they suit the conditions. So you know, let's just hope for the best and hope we have a good race.
Former SA champion and Team Ford stalwart Neil Woolridge is also a multiple desert race winner and along with co-driver Kenny Scholthammer brought vast experience to the party.
Really looking forward to it. It's a great event. It's got a lot of history. It's a difficult event which we really like. We like the endurance side on that, and I think the car's well suited to that. Obviously with our years of experience it plays into our hand a little bit, not that other people aren't, but looking forward to it. So the format's a little bit different to what it has been in the past. Before it was sort of one long loop on the one day and then another long loop on the other day, whereas this time we've got laps, which is a little bit different, which gives you a bit more time for servicing and things like that. So, but all in all, we're really looking forward to it.
After a podium finish on the 4x4 Megaworld 400, veteran Hannes Grobler was looking forward to another good outing in the new RFS BMW X3.
I don't think we have expected that quick after building the BMW, but we're very glad it's good. It was good for the team, the morale and everything. And I'm sure every time we go out and we're testing and we do something, we do changes on the car, it's better, you know. So it's unbelievable. I'm looking forward to this event and to the other events towards the end of the year. We can't fix everything before this event, but yeah, the car's coming up.
There was also a local flavour to proceedings in the Premier SP class with Botswana businessman Osman Sadiq competing in a well-turned-out Nissan Navara.
First time out on SP, my 4th time out with this one. I've done the D class, but yeah, the first time in SP, yeah.
The RFS Toyota pair of Chris Visser and Japie Badenhorst went to Botswana with a tenuous lead in the Production Vehicle Championship. With only 18 points separating the top 3 teams, there was plenty of pressure on the front runners.
The top 5 seeded crews in the production vehicle category draw for start positions on the Donaldson Prologue that precedes ABSA off-road events. The Prologue determines grid positions for the race proper, and the RFS BMW crew of Hannes Grobler and Henny Terstegen drew number 1 on the road for the 72-kilometer race within a race.
Apart from from determining grid positions for the race, the Donaldson Prologue also gives crews a taste of the sort of conditions they can expect out on the route. The Prologue ran northwest from race headquarters Kumakwani towards Molopole and back to the start via Gagatla, and included the bush terrain river crossings and thick sand that are desert race hallmarks.
Toyota's bid to win their own race for the first time since 1999 got off to a promising start when the Team Castrol Toyota Hilux pair of Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton won the prologue by the comfortable margin of 28 seconds. Houghton is a long-serving Toyota team member and sat alongside RP Reiniger on Toyota's last success on the Desert Classic. Although times have changed since then for co-drivers who can now call on modern technology like GPS, even the most experienced navigators occasionally get caught out.
Apart from GPS, which brings an important safety element to off-road racing, co-drivers also have a road book with detailed instructions and route markers to help keep them on the right track, so to speak. Robin Houghton scored the first of his 4 desert race wins way back in 1995 and is also a multiple South African rally champion.
The experienced Neil Woolridge and Kenny Scholthammer have been competing together for over a decade, with the Team Ford pair also getting their race off to a promising start. Second on the prologue was a boost for Woolridge and Scholthammer, who made history earlier this season when they became the first crew to win a national event in a diesel-powered vehicle. The Ford pair only had 3 starts to spare over Duncan Voss and Rob Howie in the second of the Team Castrol Toyota Hilux entries. Behind Voss and Howie, the RFS BMW of Hannes Grobler and Henry Versteegen was a solid fourth, with the 2 cars separated by 38 seconds.
The ebullient Hannes Grobler scored the first of his 4 desert race victories back in 1986 and has a fanatical following in Botswana. Grobler and Versteegen started their season in a Toyota Hilux and then took over the RFS BMW from team owner Chris de Plooy. They took the car to its first podium finish on the 4x4 Megaworld 400 and arrived in Botswana with ever-increasing confidence. Grobler and Versteegen had only 5 seconds to spare over Thomas Rundle and Johan Moore in the Barden Tyre Services Nissan Navara. The Navara is the ex-Foss factory car, but apart from a podium finish on the Sun City 400, it has been a frustrating season for the pair. The experienced Moore won the desert race in 2000 with Mark Corbett in a special vehicle and is also a former SA production car co-drivers champion. Rundle cut his racing teeth down in Class E and was hard at work in one of the smallest, noisiest and most uncomfortable offices in the world.
Championship leaders Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst ran into a power steering problem towards the end of the prologue, but were happy enough with 6th place. The sound of high-speed machinery blasting through the bush did nothing to disturb a couple of local residents who calmly carried on their search for tasty tidbits while Gary Bertholdt and Andre van Mierlen hurried along in the Atlas Copco Toyota Hilux.
There's just racing in the Bertholdt genes, with Gary's father Bodo and brother Bevan both competing in the special vehicle category. Andre van Mierlen is also one of the top rally navigators in South Africa, but a slight overshoot temporarily halted progress for the Atlas Copco team. The incident cost the pair a couple of seconds, and they finished the prologue in 7th with 20 seconds in hand over Bloemfontein-based crew George Barkhuizen and David van Wyk in the AIM Toyota Hilux. After an inconsistent start to the season, Barkhuizen and van Wyk scored a solid 5th on the 4x4 Megaworld 400 and also arrived in Botswana with a high level of confidence.
There is no shortage of vantage points along the route, with these local youngsters getting a bird's-eye view of proceedings. Down on the ground, brothers-in-law Mike Whitehouse and Matthew Carlson made sure of a top 10 start in the production vehicle category in the Regent Racing Navara. The Navara is another of the ex-Nissan factory team cars, with Whitehouse and Carlson protecting the best current finish rate in off-road racing. The pair raced together in the special vehicle category before switching to the production vehicles, and Whitehouse had 27 successive finishes under his belt, and Carlson had not walked home in 24 starts. The Regent Racing pair finished with around half a minute in hand over another Bloemfontein-based crew in Lodebrain and Rian Greylen in the Rubicon Racing Ford Ranger. The Rubicon Ford is also an ex-factory car, and behind them, the Rustenburg father and son team of Willem and Dana Vos were putting together a steady run in the Fossies Toyota Hilux. There was almost a home event for the pair, who were being chased by Class D leaders Dion Venter and Ian Palmer in the impressive new 4x4 Mega World Toyota Hilux. Hot on their heels were current Class E champions Jannie Visser and Joks LaRue, who were out for the first time in an SP Class entry in the Silver Dollar Toyota Hilux.
Lull in proceedings gave this lone spectator a chance to stretch her legs, while teenager Lance Woolridge and Ward Huxtable were busy putting together the quickest Class E time in the Team Ford Ranger. Woolridge is the son of Neil and was having his first taste of the Toyota Kalahari Botswana 1000 desert race. Woolridge and Huxtable went into the event leading the Class E championship and edged out Malcolm Cook, whose father Andre won the desert race in 1988, and Johan Burger in a Toyota Hilux by 18 seconds. Third in Class E were Gerald Leroux and Willem Pretorius in the Rubicon Ford Ranger, with the four-cylinder buckies finding it hard going in the tough conditions. Behind the Rubicon Ford, the Nissan hardbody of local crew Arnold Mabile and Reginald Malomo was running around 11 minutes behind Class D leaders Dion Venter and Ian Palmer.
Back at race headquarters in Kumakwane, there were no major complaints from Prologue frontrunners and class winners. Most of the hard work lay ahead over the next 2 days.
Yeah, look, in the past I've always had fairly good prologues behind my back, and I just hope that this weekend I can produce a win out of it.
Yeah, we're happy with it. We made a couple of mistakes. We had 2 or 3 overshoots and we stalled the car in the deep sand. This corner's come up really, really fast. So, but overall we're happy. The car's perfect, not a thing wrong with it. So we're ready for the big challenge tomorrow.
Yeah, it's always important to set a good time. On this long event, it's maybe a little bit less important than some of the other ones because it's not really that dusty all the way. But it's always good not to have to chase and to pass a lot of guys on the roads. It's very narrow roads, and yeah, if you sit behind them, it's not easy to pass.
Yeah, we're happy with the result. Yeah, it was a good prologue. We thought we had a flat wheel about halfway through, but we didn't. We lost a little bit of time. I stalled the car on a hairpin, but otherwise a good result for us, yes.
We came back here today and we thought we had trouble with the car's control, the handling of the car. When we got our times, we could see why there was a handling problem. It's just the speed is so much faster than a Class E car, but it's great. And we seem to have the car's problem sorted out now.
It's going very well. Lots of the corners, really the torque of the diesel is helping a lot with the sand. In the corners where other cars I'm sure would be in second, we can pull third and just pull straight through the corners, which is really nice. We can make up a lot of time. The car is very strong.
You see a stadium. We see a stage. You see success. We see sacrifice. You see humanity pushing itself to its limit. We see it doing what it was born to do. The Commonwealth Games. See it how we do. With 4 dedicated channels. Nowhere else but Supersport.
Whether you're into reggae, soul, pop, hard rock, or the classics, you'll find something to suit your every mood with DMX's 40 music channels, while our selection of radio stations will keep you up to date in crystal clear quality. To access, simply press Shift and the TV button and select your channel of choice. DSTV's Audio Bouquet, a world of sound at your fingertips.
Between 1975 and 1991, special vehicles and production vehicles raced together with one overall winner. That changed in 1992 when the then Motorsport SA Off-Road Commission split the championship into special vehicle and production vehicle categories. It ushered in a new era for off-road racing in South Africa, with the sport now a jewel in the Motorsport South African crown.
In the mid-90s, Palabora-based brothers Kali and Herman Silwald won the South African Championship and now compete against each other. Herman and son Wichard won the 4x4 Mega World 400 and were keen to keep the momentum going.
Yes, we would like to continue on the performance that we had the last race. The car really worked well. We've done minor changes for this race, but I think the car is working much better. So the main thing now is to keep it on the road and finish it. It's a long race, and the desert hasn't been that good to us in the past 3-4 years. So we hope to finish well and with a good result.
At 68, Bodo Berthold was the oldest driver in this year's event and has not missed a Toyota Desert race since 1976. Off-road racing runs in the Berthold blood, and Bodo has seen his sons Bevan and Gary follow in his footsteps and has no thoughts of ever calling it a day.
So I think it was about 1976 that they started it. And in those days we used to race a little Beetle. And it was quite a feat in those days to get through everything with a Beetle. But we had a hell of a lot of fun, and ever since the first one, that's always been my motto, to have as much fun as possible. That's what we're here for.
A couple of blasts from the past. Lindy Besadenhout is one of far more recent vintage, but leads the Class B Championship with father-in-law Bez Besadenhout, and was a little on the nervous side before her first taste of the desert race.
I'm quite nervous, but I'm also looking much forward to this. I think it's going to be a big challenge. 1,000 kilometers is not just a physical challenge for the crews, but also for the cars. And so far in the championships, our car has proved to be very reliable, and we will probably have a strategy of saving the car tomorrow and give our best on Sunday, and hope we can keep up the good points in any way.
With just 14 points separating the top 4 crews in the Special Vehicle Championship, there were high stakes in Botswana for those involved in the battle at the top of the leaderboard.
The top-seeded drivers in the special vehicle category also draw for start positions on the Donaldson Prologue. Pressure and Class B Championship leaders Johan van Staden and James Rousseau went up a notch or two when they drew first on the road, although van Staden was not too concerned about the situation.
A little bit, but looking at the long weekend ahead of us, it's not going to make a big difference.
The Donaldson Prologue produced something of a surprise when Polokwane crew Naim Mossaji and Rayon Borhanya blitzed the rest of the field in the Maxis Tyre Porter. Mossaji and Borhanya produced a stunning performance to finish 34 seconds ahead of 07 winners and SA champions Kali and Quinton Silwald in the Elegant Fuel Bat. The Silwalds reported a trouble-free run, but could not match Mossaji and Borhanya for pure pace.
There was also an impressive performance from Bevan Berthold and Dani Stassen, who were third quickest in the Lab 88 bat. They were just 20 seconds off the pace set by the Silwalds and had 33 seconds in hand over reigning drivers champion Evan Hutchison and off-road motorcycle ace Darrell Curtis in the Motorrite Revo 1 4x4. There were no heroics from championship leaders Shamir Variawa and Siegfried Rousseau in the Total Porter, with the pair happy enough with 5th place, around 2 minutes behind prologue winners Mossaji and Borhanya. Nothing appears to disturb the donkeys that are part and parcel of the scenery in Botswana, and all was well with Nick Harper and Kevin Hume in the Atlas Copco bat. Like Variawa and Rousseau, they did not go in for heroics, and a steady run took them into 6th place.
Class B Championship leaders Johan van Staden and James Rousseau did not try to prove a point either, and were happy enough to let quicker Class A cars go past. A puncture was to drop them down the pecking order, with the Atlas Copco crew finishing a disappointing 9th in class. There were problems for Colin Matthews and Alan Smith, with a dodgy gearbox slowing progress for the Century Racing pair. Members of the Botswana Police Service were much in evidence along the route, but for these two there was little to do by way of crowd control. It was also a rather quiet day at the office for Herman and Wichard Silwald. They reported a trouble-free run too, but were a little disappointed with 8th place. Herman did the driving when he and brother Kali won the South African Championships in the mid-90s. Now both brothers go racing with their sons, Herman and Wichard, scoring their first win together on the 4x4 Mega World 400. while Cully and Quinton campaign a Bat and SVR built by arch rival Shamir Variawa is the preferred mode of transport for Herman and Wegat.
With Class P Championship leaders Johan van Staden and James Rousseau running into trouble, the fastest time in the category went to Archie Rutherford and Mike Lawrenson in the Regent Racing Jimco. They were racing ahead of another father and son team in Nardus and Louis Alberts, who were happy with the steady run in the Rapsabat. For the special vehicle runners, it was tough going in the tight and twisty sections, and it was no surprise that 8 out of the top 10 overall on the prologue were production cars.
The second fastest time in Class B went to Mark Corbett and Rudy Balzar in the Century Racing CR2. Corbett has fond memories of the desert race and won the special category in 2000 along with co-driver Juan Moore. The futuristic Century Racing CR2 was built to specifications that allow it to compete on the Dakar Rally, and last year won Class B on the Sun City 400 with Corbett's father Ernest doing everything. Third fastest in Class B was Swaziland-based John Thompson and stand-in navigator Zelda Nimat, who was deputising for Clinton McNamara. A little further back in the field, Bez Besaidnout and daughter-in-law Lindy were in at the front of Class B in the Adenko Bat. The Cape-based crew were being chased by Kutsiela Beskagni and daughter Sandra in the Raysonic Zarko, and at the finish, the two crews were separated by just 3 seconds.
Also in the Class B mix were brothers Keith and Andrew Macanetti in another Zarko. After a disappointing start to the season, the pair were looking to bounce back and score points for the second event in a row.
Back at race headquarters, it was time for service crews to ready their chargers for battle on the morrow, and while they swung into action, we caught up with some of the drivers.
So far I'm enjoying it very much. I drive production vehicles for 16 years. Before that I had a couple of years on the old type of Sandmasters, but this new generation Sandmasters are beautiful.
Today we got drilled by 3 minutes overall by the four-wheel drives, but when we get into the quick stuff, in the long roads, we're doing 198, they're doing 165. So somewhere we've got to get something back. But it's hard in the desert. I'd say the four-wheel drives are a little bit better, you know.
Yeah, we had a reasonable time today. The plan for the rest of the weekend is try and get in the front, but also the main thing is just to finish. So we're going to go a bit tomorrow, and then I think the race is really on Sunday.
You know, it all just looked like it won't come together. We worked all the last minute before the prologue, and I don't know, maybe in God's hands he showed us something.
The Toyota Kalahari Botswana 1000 Desert Race draws crowds like bees around a honeypot, and from early morning, enthusiasts were flocking to the start in Kumakwane. Times have also changed, and gone are the days when off-road crews had to get up at 4 a.m. for a 6 a.m. start. Nowadays, races start at a far more civilized hour, but there is still plenty of activity in the pits as teams get ready for what is going to be a long and tough day. Special Vehicle Championship leaders Shamir Variawa and Siegfried Rousseau were looking for a hat-trick of wins in Botswana, and 5th place on the prologue left them handily placed at the start of the first racing section.
Yeah, well, considering the last 2 prologues, we had a dismal one, but yesterday I just wanted to have a clean prologue, and it's exactly what happened. We had a clean prologue. We're 5th in the specials, which is not too bad, and the only thing is today we just need to bring it home and see what happens.
4th on the prologue also suited the motorride pair of Evan Hutchison and motorcycle star Daryl Curtis, who were looking forward to racing in the relative comfort of a car.
Yes, it's great to be back at the Toyota 1000 Desert Race, and the prologue was very different, of course. On the motorcycle in the past, lots of thorns and you get scratched to pieces, and the car it's totally different, and we had a nice smooth run yesterday.
Production Vehicle Championship leader Chris Visser has a calm approach to his racing and was quite happy with 6th on the grid.
Yeah, no, I think we're starting 6th, and yesterday was a good day for us. We didn't make any mistakes. The last maybe 15 kilometers, the power steering actually let us down. Steering became hard, so it was a little bit more difficult to drive the bakkie, but I must say I'm very happy. I just hope I hope the dust is not going to be a big factor today. There's no wind, so I think the dust is going to be bad.
A relaxed Duncan Foss was only 3 seconds behind the Team Ford Ranger of Neil Woolridge and Kenny Scholthammer and could look forward to an early battle with the big Ford.
Yeah, we're in a reasonable position for the start of day one. So, we're happy. Car's good. Robbie's good. So hopefully we can have a good day.
The people of Botswana love their motorsport, and the Toyota Desert Race is the biggest annual sporting event in the country. A party atmosphere grips everyone, but the race also plays an important economic and social role, and it enjoys great support from the government.
Well, it's for first starters, it's a big boost to the economy, and it also brings communities together. I think the change to Kumakwani this year around has been a blessing in disguise because we can get communities involved. As you know, Botswana needs to diversify its economy. So getting all sorts of people from every walk of life involved is one great step. It's also very good for the hoteling industry in Botswana. Shine the spotlight on Botswana from the international community in terms of our ability to host such an event, this peace and security. It means so much to us, yes.
With crowd control and the safety of competitors and spectators a priority, there is a massive police presence throughout the route.
We have so far deployed 900 officers on this event. And of course, throughout the track, they will be there to make sure that they provide sufficient security for the onlookers and so forth.
There was plenty of excitement among the crowd and tension in the air as the clock wound down towards the start, with the Botswana Minister of Tourism flagging the first cars away. The area around the start was packed with thousands of excited enthusiasts as Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton led the field away in the Team Castrol Toyota Hilux. Races in the Absa Off-Road Championship are run in what is known as real time. This means that cars no longer set off at 1 or 2 minute intervals, but start as per the times they recorded on the Donaldson Prologue. With only 3 seconds separating Neil Woolridge and Kenny Scholthammer and Duncan Foss and Rob Howie, the system provides for some hectic racing from the word go.
The biggest cheers were reserved for Hannes Grobler, who over the years has attracted a fanatical following in Botswana. Grobler switched to BMW after 33 years of driving Nissan products, has done nothing to lessen his status with local enthusiasts. The RFS BMW was closely followed by Thomas Rundle and Johan Moore in the Baden Tyre Services Nissan Navara and championship leaders Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst. Mosaji and Rayon Bodhanya led away the special vehicle contingent, with crews facing a very tough challenge.
The first racing section was made up of a 243-kilometre loop to be run twice, with competitors heading from Kumakwane towards Lensueletau.
The enthusiastic crowds that gather at isolated points along the route and at designated spectator areas are a characteristic of the Toyota Desert Race. It's an event with a truly African flavour and has a unique place in Southern African off-road racing history. At the front of the field, Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton were hustling along, with Neil Woolridge and Kenny Scholthammer giving chase in the Team Ford Ranger. The Ford pair had edged away from Duncan Foss and Rob Howie, but there was little to choose between the crews as they looked to settle into an early rhythm that would get them through the day without any major mishap. The Desert Race is never won on the first morning, but often lost on the last afternoon. Hannes Grobler and Hemi Terstege had settled into a solid 4th place, with the crew happy with changes made to the car since their podium finish on the 4x4 Mega World 400. For Grobler, the biggest challenge was adapting his driving style to the demands made by a turbocharged diesel car with turbo lag a problem on the tighter sections of the route.
There was no early change to the running order among the top 6. Thomas Rundle and Johan Moore were still in 5th place in the Baden Tyre Services Nissan Navara, with Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst 6th in the RFS Toyota Hilux, which was carrying silver dollar livery for this event. Some dramatic in-car camera footage provides an armchair view of just how easy it is to run into trouble if you stray from the route. Trees and thick bushes line the track, and stumps and rocks on the side of the road can easily lead to punctures or more serious consequences.
Special vehicle leaders Naeem Mosaji and Rayhan Bodhanya had got off to a fast start in the Maxis Tyre Rack Porter and were being chased by Gary Bertelt and Andre Vermeulen, who had a bit of a moment as they approached an early river crossing. Atlas Copco Toyota started 20 seconds ahead of George Barkhuizen and David van Wyk in the AIM Toyota Hilux, and not much had changed. The Bloemfontein-based crew picked up a top 5 finish on the 4x4 Mega World 400 and were looking for more of the same and a further climb on the championship ladder. Behind the Toyota 2007 Desert Race winners, Cully and Quinton Silwart were pushing hard in the Elegant Fuel Bat, and there were no early problems either for Bevan Berthold and Donnie Stassen in the Lab 88 Bat. Berthold and Stassen were holding station ahead of Evan Hutchison and Daryl Curtis in the Motorrad Revo 1 4x4, with reigning drivers champion Hutchison looking for his first win of the season.
The consistent Mike Whitehouse and Matthew Carlson had made a steady start to their race, but behind the region Racing Navarra there was a bit of excitement. Championship leaders Shamir Variawa and Siegfried Rousseau and Kevin Hume set identical times on the prologue. The two cars were still running together, and following in their dust were Colin Matthews and Alan Smith in a Century Racing CR3 restored overnight to full health. A gearbox problem slowed the pair on the prologue, but the CR3 now appeared to be running sweetly. Coming up behind Matthews and Smith were Herman and Richard Zolwald, who were hoping to avoid a repeat of last year's race when a set of circumstances saw the pair spend a long night in the desert. Steaming along behind the Zolwalds were Nardis and Louis Alberts in a healthy-sounding Ratsabat.
The Cobalt Racing Porter of Jimmy Zahos and Stefan Kutsia also sounded full of running. The Alberts car and Zahos and Kutsia had both moved ahead of Class P frontrunners Archie Rutherford and Mike Lawrenson in the Regent Racing Jimco. Rutherford and Lawrenson were racing together for the first time and were under pressure from the Century Racing CR2 of Mark Corbett and Rudy Balzar. Next up were production vehicle pair Willem and Dana Vos in the Fossies Toyota Hilux, who were being chased by Neil Meyer and Leon Miller, who have made a good impression this season in their Zarko Magnum.
The new 4x4 Mega World Toyota Hilux in the hands of Dion Fenter and Ian Palmer led Class D and was holding station ahead of reigning Class E champions Yanni Visser and Jox LaRue in the Silver Dollar Toyota Hilux. Botswana brothers Mohammed and Faisal Noble had plenty of local support and were being harried by a trio of Class P cars. At the front of the little Class P train were John Thompson and Zelda Niemand, with Cape Town brothers Johan and Dion Besadenhout and Marius Fourie and his father Andre in an aging bat in close attendance.
The Toyota Desert Race doesn't lack for spectator vantage points where enthusiasts and family and friends of competitors can catch all the action. There's always something happening throughout the field, with Peter Ruthven and Rudy Brits also off to a solid start in their Roacon Toyota Hilux. Botswana-based Keith Du Toit and Lesotho resident Ashley Thorne had also made a promising start in the White Star Racing Bat. Thorne is from the old school of off-road races, and listed in his curriculum vitae is a win on the world-famous Roof of Africa Rally. Teenager Lance Woolridge is from the new breed of road races and led Class E in the Team Ford Ranger, with another old-timer in Richard Schilling chasing after the youngster and Ward Huxtable. All was well with Malcolm Koch and Johan Burger, who was second in Class E, but looming up behind them were Class B leaders Bez Besaidnout and daughter-in-law Lindy in the Adenko Bat. The Besaidnouts had around half a minute to spare on the father and daughter team of Kutsia and Sandra Labuskaghni in the Raconic Zarko. Behind the Labuskaghnis, there was an interesting tussle developing between Atlas Copco teammates Bodo Berthold and Philip Herselman and Johan van Staden, with James Rousseau, who picked up a puncher on the prologue and started a disappointing 9th in Class P.
After a series of solid displays last year that took them to second in the Class B Championship, a single finish and 5 starts going into the Botswana race added up to an unhappy season so far for brothers Keith and Andrew Makanetti in the Zarko. An early overshoot did nothing to aid and abet their cause, and by the time they were again underway, the brothers had lost a little time on the Class B crews ahead of them. The episode also saw early season race winners Gerald LaRue and Willem Pretorius close in on the Zarko in the Rubicon Ford Ranger, which was running 3rd in Class E. The Roo and Pretoria's couple of minutes in hand over veteran former Class B champion Gil Nel and Jaco Jonk, who were making steady if unspectacular progress in the Zarco Truggy.
There was a holiday atmosphere among spectators along the route, with river crossings favoured locations for those diehards who would stay in one place and watch their entire field go past. Among the backmarkers were off-road legend Alfie Cox and Jürgen Schroeder in the SP Laser Nissan Navara. Problems on the prologue relegated them to the back of the start grid, but they quickly picked up a place or two and were now ahead of the Land Rover of regular Northern Regions Championship competitors Jack and Sarel Oosthuizen, who'd stepped up a division. An argument with a tree during the prologue had also relegated local crew Osman Sadiq and Shahat Fazaldin to the back of the field in the SP class Nissan Navara, while Johan de Lange and Gert Osch were finding a tough Nissan hardbody running in Class E.
It was also tough going for Etienne Besadenhout and Hanro Visser, who were battling electrical problems in the Adenco Ford Ranger. The Cape crew would eventually be forced to call it a day, with their unhappy season continuing. It was also a baptism of fire for local team Arnold Mabile and Reginald Malomo, who were a little off the pace in Class D and were being chased down by Hein Moorman and JD Wolfart in a 4x4 Mega World Toyota Hilux that was heading for retirement.
The route back to the designated service point at Kumakwane took crews to the Metsi Moti Harbour and doubled back to the finish via Khapiri. And we're back right after this.
Idols is back with a bang. Be part of the Beautiful Noise Live and get your tickets for the theatre shows from CompuTicket. Golden Circle standing tickets are 20 Rand and seating tickets are 40 Rand. The shows will be at the Mosaic Theatre in Fairlands, Johannesburg every Friday from the 20th of August to the 29th of October. Watch Idols every Sunday and results show Tuesday, first on Mnet.
Idols brought to you by Outsurance, where you always get something out.
Steal a heart, a glance, a moment. Steal a march, a kiss, a second. Steal a place, steal a win. Steal the show. This is MotoGP, live and exclusive to your world of champions.
The first cars were within shouting distance of the designated service point back at the Kumakwane race headquarters when there was a change at the front of the field. A fuel pump problem delayed Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton, and Team Castrol Toyota teammates Duncan Force and Rob Howie slipped into the lead. Taylor and Houghton were only seconds behind in a Castrol Toyota Hilux that was carrying the scars of battle. The pair only had a couple of minutes in hand over championship leaders Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst and were continuing to push hard. The route had turned out to be a lot tighter and a lot more technical than anticipated, and the leading teams had been on the road for nearly 4 hours. It had not taken long for the Toyota Desert Race to live up to its reputation as a test for man and machinery.
There was a huge welcome from the local faithful for Hannes Grobbe and Henny ter Steege, who were still fourth in the RFS BMW. They'd fallen behind Visser and Badenhorst, but were still in fourth because of problems for Neil Woolridge and Kenny Scholthammer. The Team Ford Ranger pair started second, but a turbo problem had dropped them down the field, and they were headed for retirement at the designated service point. Donnie Stassen had also run into his own problems, and Evan Hutchison and Daryl Curtis had moved into the lead in the Motorrad Revo 1 4x4, now powered by a 3.5-litre Nissan engine. Nissan Navara of Thomas Rundle and Johan Moore had also dropped back one place among the production vehicles and was under threat from Shamir Voriyawa and Siegfried Rousseau, who had enjoyed a good morning and had moved from 5th to 2nd among the special vehicles.
It had also been a good morning for Nick Harper and Kevin Hume, who had picked up a couple of places in the Atlas Copco bat. They started out in 6th place among the Class A cars, but were now up to 3rd. Herman and Richard Sulwald had also moved up a notch or two in the Sulwald Racing SVR, but it had been tough going for the special vehicles. The space frame cars are not nearly as nimble as the production vehicles in the tight terrain, and the constant changes in direction on a tight and technical route put the special vehicle runners at a slight disadvantage.
Just a little further back, Connie and Quinton Sulwald had dropped a couple of places through what Sulwald Senior later described as a slight driving error in the rough. A driver admitting to an error is refreshing, but the Sulwalds were still making good progress. George Barkhuizen and David van Wyk were also making good progress in the AIM Toyota Hilux, with crews being spurred on by hugely enthusiastic crowds at the popular racings. Willem and Dana Vos were having their first taste of a Toyota Desert race and politely moved over to allow the hard-charging Colin Matthews and Alan Smith past in the Century Racing CR3.
Archie Rutherford and Mike Lawrenson were still leading Class P in the Regent Racing Gymco. The pair were having their first outing together, and for the second time in a short space, Colin Matthews and Alan Smith benefited from an act of good sportsmanship. The Regent Racing pair moved out of the way to allow Matthews and Smith right of way at a tricky river crossing. Rutherford and Lawrenson quickly followed the Century Racing pair through, with Class D leaders Dion Venter and Ian Palmer next on the scene in the 4x4 Mega World Toyota Hilux, which had a tight hold on Class D.
It had been a profitable day for Cape brothers Johan and Dion Besaidnout in the Adenko bat. They'd moved ahead of John Thompson and Zelda Niemand in the Zarko and were now being chased by Rutherford and Lawrenson. Also moving through the field after a disappointing prologue were Class B championship leaders Johan van Staden and James Rousseau in their Atlas Copco bat. They picked up another place when Class B frontrunners Benz and Lindy Besaidnout in yet another Adenko entry politely moved out of the way to let them through.
For Gary Bertholdt and Andre Vermeulen, there had been an adventurous twist to the morning. Membership of the Roly Poly Club left them soldiering on in an Atlas Copco Toyota, slightly the worse for wear, with visibility a major problem. In an ironic twist, it was Bertholdt's brother Bevan who was first on the scene to pull them back onto their wheels. Behind the Atlas Copco Toyota, the SP Class Toyota Hilux of Peter Ruthven and Rudy Brits had been caught by Malcolm Koch and Johan Berger, who now had the lead in Class E. Gerald LaRue and Willem Pretorius had moved into second in the Rubicon Ford Ranger, with prologue winners Lance Woolridge and Ward Huxtable dropping back to third after losing four-wheel drive on the Team Ford Ranger.
It was an uphill battle. Back at the designated service point, there was a flurry of activity in the Toyota pits when Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton and Duncan Vos with Rob Howie arrived at the same time for their compulsory 15-minute stop.
2 k's from the end just out the riverbed. Well, it started from about 160 kilometers. We had a bit of fuel pump problem, but out the riverbed, 2 k's from the end, it just died on us, and that's when Duncan got past. So I don't know, hopefully we can get it going again and run it till the end.
The whole route is just left and right all the way. Unbelievable. But it's very narrow and very bushy, but it's lekker. I enjoy it.
It's one of the toughest desert races that I've done up to now. It was very tight. I think it took us 4 hours for this 250 kilos, so that shows you.
So it's lekker rof as jy, ek weet nie, tippe en goed is daar baie, maar het is lekker, geniet het.
Vanoggend die eerste 50 kilo's het ons baie mooi stadig gery en met vir pap wiele bietjie misgery. Maar dit het gewerk. So ons is toe later by die voorste klas E weg, die Ford verby. En ons het hom nog nie weer gesien nie en verder gaan dit goed. Ons geniet dit.
About 30 k's out, we just clipped the bush on the inside and it fell on its side. It took us about 5 to 10 minutes to get it back on, but other than that it's going fine. We'll try and just catch up now again.
Yeah, unfortunately we broke the wastegate on the turbo.
So it's turning into a bit of a long day for us, but hopefully the guys can fix it and we get back out there and at least finish the day.
Matters were a whole lot calmer in the pits for special vehicle race leaders Evan Hutchison and Daryl Curtis and the second place total porter of Shamir Variawa and Siegfried Rousseau. Both crews had picked up places through the morning and biker Curtis could not contain his enthusiasm for racing on four wheels.
Yes, it's a joy. This car is so lekker. It's like a big radio control car, jumping and it's awesome, man. Loving it.
It's going fine. The car is in 100%. The problem is it's very tight there. We are battling and the dust is heavy, so I think we're in a good position. We'll just see how it goes in the next people, and hopefully we'll be here.
There's a little bit of everything in there. There's a lot of surprises. A lot of rocky section too, which I didn't enjoy. A lot of sort of loose stone and stuff, and tight bush, which wasn't easy. But otherwise, great. We're having great fun.
No, good, no problems. We just had a leak on the brake lining, the brake caliper, but otherwise, no problems. Going grassy, we're still leading, and still a long day to go, and then still tomorrow, so we just want to get to the end today.
Not too bad. Struggling a bit with our Parker pump. It broke, so he's getting a bit of nauseous. But yeah, the shed will go fine.
The ABCs of summer. A. Abs, aircon, acho, active. B. Beach, bikinis, braai, biltong. And C. Cricket. All the big hits, all the wickets and all the fun. This summer is going to be a sizzler. The Proteas take on Zimbabwe in two thrilling encounters. This sizzling series is on SuperSport, your world of champions.
Whether you watch DSTV here, or here, or you're in the business of entertaining people here, or here, you can make sure your DSTV decoder is covered for lightning, technical malfunction, fire, and theft from as little as 20 Rand per month. Want to know more? Simply SMS the letters DCC to 32445 and a consultant will be in touch with you. DSTV, so much more peace of mind.
Production Vehicle Drivers Champion Duncan Foss and Rob Howie were the first to leave the designated service point and set out on the second loop of the race. Foss was looking for a fourth successive win on the Toyota Kalahari Botswana Desert Race, but his lead over the second Team Castrol Toyota of Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton could be counted in seconds. Taylor and Houghton were hoping their fuel pump problem had been sorted out at the DSP. With Chris Verse and Jaapie Baardnos next on the road, Toyota had a hold on the first three places in the production vehicle category, but dust was going to be a big problem for the championship leaders.
While many spectators were enjoying a picnic lunch, Grobler and Terstegen were hard at work in the RFS BMW, which was still in a solid fourth. Grobler won his first Toyota Desert Race in 1986 and then had to wait until 2002 for his second win. He completed a hat-trick of wins with seven-time winner Richard Leek in 2002 and 2004 and then won again in 2006 with Francois Jordan. While the whole of Botswana were praying for another Grobler victory, Evan Hutchison and Daryl Curtis were still in the lead in the special vehicle category. The motorized car was being chased by Shamir Variawa and Siegfried Rousseau, who had not put a wheel wrong all day and were looking menacing in the team total porter. Cully and Quinton Silwald had only shifted up a gear, and behind them, George Barkhuizen and David van Wyk were having a great run, and Toyota now had 4 cars in the top 5 in the production vehicle category. Chasing after the Toyota were Colin Matthews and Alan Smith, with the Century Racing pair looking to be in good shape.
The Class P lead was still in the hands of Archie Rutherford and Mike Lawrenson, with the Regent Racing Jimco under attack from the impressive Willem and Dana Foss. Behind the Rustenburg pair, trouble was looming for Rutherford and Lawrenson in the form of Johan and Dion Besaidnout, who were quickly closing in on the Regent Racing Jimco. The Besaidnout started 4th in class and had worked their way ahead of a string of cars to move into a challenging position. Among the Besaidnout's victims were Dion Venter and Ian Palmer, who were in complete control of Class D in the 4x4 Mega World Toyota Hilux.
Swaziland driver John Thompson and stand-in co-driver Zelda Niemand were still 3rd in Class P, but were being hunted down by championship leaders Johan van Staden and James Rousseau, who had also made up ground through the field in the Atlas Copco Bet. Behind van Staden and Rousseau, it was turning into a good day for the Besaidnout family, with Bez Besaidnout and daughter-in-law Lindy in control of Class B in the Adenco Bet. Behind them, the Class E lead still belonged to Malcolm Koch and Johan Berger in a Toyota Hilux.
It was almost milking time for this lady, while at the front of the field there had been another twist in what had been an intriguing battle up front. Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton were back in the lead in the Team Castrol Toyota Hilux, courtesy of a puncture Duncan Foss and Rob Howie. Punches were easy to come by, with small tree stumps and rocks on the side of the road, ready to punish anyone who strayed off the track by even the smallest of margins. These stumps and rocks are known in the trade as lurkers and have ruined many a race for competitors looking set to pick up good results. Taylor and Houghton had built up a lead of just over a minute ahead of Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst, who'd also moved ahead of Duncan Foss and Rob Howie. Visser and Badenhorst had won twice this season before going to Botswana and once again were in a menacing position. Foss and Howie had managed to get going ahead of Hannes Grobler and Henny ter Steege, and Toyota still had a hold on the first 3 places in the production vehicle category. Grobler and ter Steege were only seconds behind Foss and Howie, with Grobler's popularity in Botswana winning BMW a whole new following.
There had also been a change at the front of the special vehicle category. Evan Hutchison and Daryl Curtis had fallen by the wayside, and Shamir Variawa and Siegfried Rousseau now had the lead in the Team Total Porter. They were ahead of Cully and Quinton Silwalt, while George Barkhuizen and David van Wyk had strengthened Toyota's hold on the top places in the production vehicle category. 4 of the top 5 positions were now occupied by Toyotas, and after a season characterized by inconsistency from the Bloemfontein crew, the drive by Barkhuizen and van Wyk rated as one of the highlights of the day.
Just a little further back, Herman and Wichert Silwart had moved into 3rd place among the specials, with their progress watched by a pair of enterprising locals who had the best seats in the house. Brothers Johan and Dion Besaidnout had finally moved to the front of the Class B field in the Adenco Bet, and championship leaders Johan van Staden and James Rousseau had also got past Archie Rutherford and Mike Lawrenson, who'd slipped off the radar. John Thompson and Zelda Niemand were up into 3rd place in Class B, with veteran Bono Bertolt and Philip Herselman up to 4th in a 2nd Atlas Copco Bet.
The 4x4 Mega World Toyota Hilux of Dion Venter and Ian Palmer was still in full control of Class D, with the rest of the opposition in disarray. Toyota Hilux crew Malcolm Koch and Johan Berger had done a good job to stay at the front of the Class E field, while Kutsia Labuskaghni and daughter Sandra took over the lead in Class B when Bez and Lindy Besaidnout fell by the wayside in the Adenco Bet. Gerald LaRue and Willem Pretorius were soldiering along in the Rubicon Ford Ranger, while Class A crew Jimmy Zahos and Stefan Kutsia were stuck behind Giel Nel and Jaco Jonk, who were now 2nd in Class B.
At the back of the field, Lance Woolridge and Ward Huxtable were still without 4-wheel drive, but the Team Ford Ranger was still running, with a pair 3rd in Class E.
At the end of a dramatic day, Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton finished with a flourish to lead home the production vehicle contingent. After starting the day 5th on the road, 2-time winners Shamir Variawa and Siegfried Rousseau finished at the front of the special vehicle brigade with a handy lead over Cully and Quinton Silwalt. The spotlight then shifted to the technical crews, who had to ready their chargers for another long and tough challenge on day 2 of the Toyota Kalahari Botswana 1000 Desert Race.
Dat was ongelooflijk technisch vandaag, dus dat was verschrikkelijk. Maar ek moet sê die bakkie het hom goed gedaan en ek sê die bakkie is in een stuk en afsoek hier en daar 'n foutjie, maar nee, dit is maar net normale onderhoud wat ons nou gaan doen.
Toyota held the first 3 positions in the production vehicle category, with Hannes Grobler and Henny Terstegen a handy 4th in the RFS BMW.
Duncan just had a flat wheel in front of us and he got onto the road ahead of us, probably 5 seconds ahead of us. So we've had to fall back another 40 seconds because of the dust. But we're there. I think we're about 3 minutes behind the leaders and I think it's quite good and I'm quite happy. It's still a long way tomorrow.
There was more drama when the law of averages caught up with Mike Whitehouse and Matthew Carlson and put an end to 27 consecutive finishes in the championship.
Came around the corner, the 90 right. All was fun, but there was a big stump in a bush on the back right, clipped it and it just put us over so quickly. There had no time to react. It was in a dangerous position as well because we had a whole lot of guys around us. But Bevan Berthold stopped, helped us out, took time. His fantastic spirit made sure we were fine, pulled us over, 2 attempts got us over. Then the throttle sensor had gone. So we tried to reset the computer and just couldn't reset the computer. So there was our bundle.
After more than 8 hours of racing, less than 3 minutes separated the top 4 cars in the production vehicle category. A great performance took Venter and Palmer into 6 in a Class D car, with 2 Class E entries in the top 10.
From 5th in the special vehicle category at the start to a comfortable lead at the overnight halt, it could not have been a better day for Shamir Bawiawa and Siegfried Rousseau.
It went fine. I think we were the second special at halfway, and I believe Evan had a problem, so then we were out in front on the special vehicles, and then we just drove it. But the route is not for a special vehicle. It's for the SPs. Very, very, very tight and twisty.
A tough day in the African bush left Herman and Richard Solwald in a handy position in 3rd place among the special vehicles.
The desert race is unique in the sense that there's a lot of tight stuff, thicker sand. The car is more handful. So the more you do the desert, I think the easier it gets, but it's never easy. The desert is always a tough race, and today was a long day and very tough.
It was also a satisfactory day for Class B leader Kutsiel Abuskachni, who opted for a more conservative approach that paid handsome dividends.
I saw a lot of cars next to the road there. I think the guys were trying to push it a little bit. Obviously, there were a lot of lurkers with stone and little stumps there and everything, so a lot of guys got flat wheels there. So you had to be careful and keep it neat and tidy. But I think everybody drove a little longer than what they actually anticipated.
With the sun setting over Komakwani, the special vehicle results put Shamir Bawiawa and Siegfried Rousseau in a powerful position ahead of the 2 Solwald crews. They were followed by 4 Class B crews, with a stage set for drama on day 2 of the Toyota Kalahari Botswana 1000 Desert Race.
Join us next week for highlights of day 2 of the Toyota Kalahari Botswana 1000 Desert Race in Botswana.
Only right here on Supersport, your world of champions.